I've been performing and producing for 10 years now.
After the next person, to the next person.
I have a couple shows, you might know about some kids. It's like quarterly show, it was originally founded by Carl. The pandemic and then she did it off of plate. Crazy.
founder and entertainment company based in DC, Philly, New York, Miami. And yeah, I guess I like my niche is diversity in corporate entertainment and private parties, social events like that.
Really shy, so I'm gonna do the best I can. Everybody at home. My name is Derek Brown. I've been working in the DMV for many decades. I started off as a show producer and working on videos and stuff, and kind of fell into burlesque, going into my 8th year with Surveil Burlesque, which is a brunch that takes place downtown. And yes. Yes, and we're going on our 8th year come September 10th. And yes, I know.
Crazy.
But yes, we have shows coming up June 2nd and 23rd. We're taking May off, which we really need. And I started Hump Day Cabaret, which is new over at the Carlisle with my partner Athena. So yeah,
Thank you.
nice to meet her.
I'm gonna go this way so that I.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll try to check you both here and here. Hi, I'm Shri Sweetbottom. I have been performing burlesque since 2011. I started at the Red Palace, just down the street here, RIP, I'm ancient. I've been producing since 2012. If you ever remember hearing of the Evil League of Enthusiasts, I was on that production team. And then I had a classic show, House of Sweetbottom, later on that I quit doing because it wasn't profitable. I haven't produced since 2018 for a variety of reasons. I kind of do a little bit of everything: classic, nerdlesque, draglesque. I'm in the core cast of Naked Girls Reading DC, which is now Bear Book Club, which we haven't performed since the pandemic, and who knows if we'll ever come back. I've done corporate private events, I've done some national and regional tours, I've done the festival thing, but I've been focusing more on my acting career since 2018, so I have not been as active in the burlesque scene. But it's so wonderful to see so many faces. I'm very excited to be here.
It's my turn.
Hello. My name is Leslie. My stage name is Kimono Jones. I go by she or pronouns. I have been producing for the past 2 years with my partner in crime, who will introduce herself. But we do a burlesque brewery show, nerdlesque specifically. I am a nerdlesque performer. It is the core of my being, and I've been performing for the past 8 years. And we most recently have started doing the convention circuit, so like nightlife, curating that kind of stuff. There are nerd less shows, so doing panels, so that's been a lot of fun. I'm so excited. Yes, I'm ready to.
Hello, my name is Maki. I go by Maki Roll, she, her. I am a performer, producer. I got my start as a creative, as a cosplayer, and that is how I sort of ventured into burlesque and nerdlesque. I started cosplaying in 2008. Started burlesque and nerdlesque in 2012 and started producing in 2013. I do a lot of nerdy-based nightlife, nerdy-based performance art. That is the core of me. I am the producer of the International Nerdlesque Festival, which came from New York, so very historic things. And I work on the preservation of nerdiness in the realm of all this sparkle shit. I'm very happy to be here.
Nice to go this way.
Hello, my name is Ricky. My former name is Pretty Ricky. I am one of the original founders and producer of Pretty Boy Drag, which is a BIPOC-centered, y'all keep saying burlesque, but BIPOC-centered drag king production based out of here in DC. I've been producing for 8 years and I've been performing for 10. I know, almost 11, so it's, I don't know, I keep doing this, I keep doing this. I would say that my focus kind of falls, I was thinking about this like last night, before I went to bed, like what are my bullet points here? So definitely creating safe spaces for people to either explore drag king performance or for other drag kings to perform their art, also education to the wider community, and then working with different organizations to create more visibility for drag kings. We've just started traveling, so we produce in DC and in Baltimore, and now we've started traveling, so we went to Atlanta recently, and then we go to Philly next month. And then I'm working out going to Richmond, so kind of just starting East Coast and then figuring it out from there. I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to share and oh, I did. So we have a show coming up next week, May 15th, at the National Museum of Women in the Arts. I keep calling it the Lady Museum, which is very, because I can't remember the whole thing, like the Lady Museum. So we have that coming up next week, and then we have our big Pride show on June 1st at Union Stage on the Wharf. So, yeah.
Hey, I am Cassidy Levitt. I am actually based in Atlanta and DC. I've been performing, well, at least in burlesque for going on maybe 5 years. I just produced my first, I guess, co-produced one show, then solo produced my first show last month. So yay. My pronouns are she and they. I would say my niche is more like sultry, slow burn, but also like a little bit of a rebel powerhouse type of person. Yeah. You know, that's me. Yeah.
I know.
I'm sharing your space. I'm happy to introduce myself. Thank you for allowing me to share your space. I'm Ben. I also go by Mr. Epoch. My spouse is Isabel. I am here to offer spitballs, to offer bad ideas that sometimes turn into good ideas, to listen and support Isabel.
As always, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lee. I've been producing for about 6 years now. I produce a show called Unforgivable Blackness, which is an annual variety show featuring queer and trans performers. And I am always looking for new talent, so I am keeping those of you who said that she'd like to perform. It's a variety show, meaning not just burlesque and drag, but also fire eating, bed and nails, all the good stuff. So if you have a free flag, come let it fly at my show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Lee Lennon, bring pronouns are he, him. I'm the founder of Black Space, Womanly Makers Lab. So we create spaces for Black queer and trans folks here in DC. And I would say our niche is we do zero proof events. So I'm a person in recovery. So I think it's really important that we have spaces that are alcohol free and substance free. So that's what we do. So that's one of my hats. My other hat is I spent 3 years in DC government. I'm still connected to DC government. So trying to bring all of us into DC government to actually get those contracts and opportunities.
You guys want to introduce yourselves? And then I'll go.
Hello, Michael, I'm a YA / Aquarius fiance. And, yeah, I'm here for more support, BTS, help her do behind the scenes stuff, anything I can do to, help support the whole space in general. And this is my sister, Sarah.
I'm gonna come that way and then yeah.
Hi, I'm Carol Foster, and I'm probably the dinosaur in the room for real. I've been doing the arts in DC for 54 years, mostly with young people. Mostly with young people, but I'm also the first person of color to head up Joy of Emotions Board of Directors in 47 years. And I'm also a founding member of the International Association of Blacks in Dance. I am also working with most of the concert dance artists throughout the district in Maryland and Virginia. And we also meet, like you guys, on a regular basis to build our numbers. And we want to be able to connect and network with the other part of the dance industry that we may not make the connect with all the time. So I'm kind of here just to hear, listen, see what your needs are, and how can we support you as well.
Thank you. No, I'm right over here since I'm awkwardly.
I'm sorry, Lloyd. And since a lot of you are producers and presenters, and I'm really blessed, and I have to just thank God that we have presented or performed or produced in most of the theaters in DC.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm a variety performer. I haven't produced, but I would like to one day, so I'm excited to listen. And I do hoops, juggling, contortion, fire, and recently burlesque.
Hi, I'm Ray, she or they. I've been producing variety events for about 10 years, starting in Atlanta and now in DC as well. My main thing is that I produce a lecture series that happens at a nightclub. We've had Maki give a talk about the history of Nerdlust that was amazing. Always looking for more speakers and really like highlighting like the history of art forms or local history of art forms too. So the local history of burlesque would be a great talk. I would love to have you talk about dance. Oh my gosh. And I also do sketch comedy, and I'm hoping to connect the sketch comedy world with the burlesque world and see what kind of resources we can share with each other, because I think we have similar audiences and needs. Speaking of.
Hi, my name is Isaiah. Pronouns are he, him. I am from the sketch comedy world. I was invited here by Ray, I'm a producer. Been producing shows with Bad Medicine since 2014. We teach and perform shows at the DC Improv Comedy Club downtown. The sketch comedy scene has been growing very nicely since the pandemic. And I'm always interested in knowing what the other arts communities are doing. And like Ray say, maybe there's ways we can support each other. At least I'm aware of, because a lot of people come across my way having backgrounds, variety of other things than that. And so I love being able to connect to people. So I'm here to listen and learn.
Yeah.
Oh, we have.
And BB just read.
Yeah, hi all, my name's Aquarius Wade. I've been performing every 2 years in November for less. My background is mainly in public policy and government consulting. So Mayor Bowser, the governor of Maryland, the governor of Virginia, I've sat on most of their advisory boards and helped them write public policy and help them with PR, crisis management. So what I'm here to do is bring everybody together to get us under, you know, the same shared values so we can go over much larger scale grants, over 100,000. Because it's doable, it's possible, and the mentors that have been working with me in burlesque, they've already achieved this. Black, queer people doing phenomenal things. And also trying to get the Smithsonian and the Kennedy Center to not just look at us as like a cute thing, but actually on the main opera stage with the orchestra, because we're the capital of the United States. So why would we not have our productions at the Kennedy Center? So yeah, that's me. Bibi, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Sorry.
How long was the performing? How long was the and
Hi, everybody, I'm Bibi Bardot, she, her, are my pronouns. Hello. I've been performing as a stage kitten since 2012, and I kittened for 4 years, and then decided to make the jump into performing full-on burlesque. So I have a little bit of a background behind the scenes as well. I started traveling in like 2018 to New Orleans, to Houston, mostly because I was already going to those places because the rates are usually do not include flight and airfare and hotel. So I was already going to these places and sent out portfolios and got sort of a name for myself that way, and also through my blog. I started a blog about burlesque history, and it sort of caught wind, and I'm really here for the academic side of burlesque, I guess. My main goal is to help us start a school here, a serious school that can do lots of things, and I guess that's why I'm here, and I hope we can all work together.
Yes. I'll introduce myself. This is not awkward at all. Hold on. I need to admit some people to the waiting room. I'll just put it down. I'm Valentina, or Lori. I've been doing burlesque for really, truly a couple of years, and I've been extremely fortunate to work with a lot of you in this room, and look forward to hopefully working with and learning from all of you in the future, if I haven't already. My background is outside of performing dance, comes from also kind of the political sides of things and organizing, union organizing in particular. So I too am excited for us to come together because I think as a collective we'll be stronger. And we can do a lot of the things that we've all outlined and more, I think, with a kind of united stance. And I'm excited about merging all my nerdy loves together. So I'll turn it over to you. We just switch host and then.
I forgot, you don't talk about your professional background. I have a background in, well, academically in psychology and professionally in marketing. Before I started burlesque full time, I was in marketing for
Venues getting the shows.
But the main purpose here is to talk about how we can move forward, specifically financially. We really want to have better business practices when it comes to producing. We want to figure out ways to make more money other than just like relying on venues and ourselves. and our own personal stores of money, grants and government stuff, and everything that Aquarius is going to present to you later on. That's what we really want to focus on, how we all can collectively share our best practices, talk about what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, and then if we can, I don't know if today will be the day, but if we can agree that like moving forward, this is how we want to move forward in producing. This is the standard we have for producing in this area. That's what we want. So yeah, that's that. And so first thing, how tired are you? And like how much have you checked out already? You checked out. Okay, let's get out.
It's an interactive activity. I'm gonna tell them to introduce in the chat.
Okay, got it. Well, for the, if you will be in the chat, we have Vanessa Chavelle out of Richmond, producer, founder of Afro Tea. What else can I say about you, babe? You're amazing. The show's been going on for how long now? Do we know?
The cookout is next month or next week?
The cookout is next week in Richmond.
8 years.
8 years. Thank you so much for being here. Jory, also out of Richmond. And I'm sorry, does she help co-produce? Or?
They produce separate.
They produce separate, okay.
Joey and
She's
Kim.
also a producer in Richmond. Amazing. I performed, last time I saw her, I was performing her birthday party. Just been doing, how long has she been performing?
Years.
Years, longer than I have.
Amazing.
I yeah.
She's icon.
Iconic. I wish I could see your beautiful faces. And I'm just saying to people that I know there are stuff. Oh, I can read it. Popular say, they, them, Richmond, burlesque performer since 2017, producing for just over a year, day job as a corporate queer, aka DEI learning professional. We're killing you.
Yeah.
9 years in the game. Let's see. Then we have Callie. Callie, how long have you been performing and how long have you been producing? Callie's right here. And for those of us in Hump Day, you probably saw her beautiful face or their beautiful face. Her performing since 2012, producing since 2017. And we mentioned you in Pies and Pastries earlier. Hi, Bob. Let's see. Hi. I almost want to call you Madeline or Mistress or something, but Jennifer Eden is a host, a performer, and a producer. How long have you been performing and hosting and producing? Is based in, are you in Baltimore now? Philly, are you moved again? In Philly, but sorry. But you're still family. I didn't see the chat. Okay. And then based here, I don't recognize.
And Tabitha.
Oh, probably we did talk to Maria Bella. You're behind the chat. I'm sorry. Maria Bella, based in Baltimore. Okay. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Hi, lovely humans. Producer, burlesque performer, and musician here, producing since 2007. Ooh, we got some names here. Across the U.S., troupe and touring shows at large, over 200 seat venues, State Theater, Creative Alliance, Kennedy Center, okay.
Thanks for bearing with us.
Sorry, people started. Oh, okay. Creative Alliance Community Center, Ramshead, etc. Currently co-production of the Charm City Burlesque and right. I'm so sorry. I've been sick. Yes, the co-producer Charm City Burlesque and Variety Festival. I headline last year. It was great. And we're doing it again. Thank you so much, Maria, for being here, sharing your expertise. Tabitha King. Performing for 14 years, producing for 12, mostly in Baltimore. Thank you so much for being here. We did Eden. Okay, well, is that everyone? I didn't put it out. Who's it? Hey, hi, EJ.
Oh, EJ.
EJ is a performer. Oh, he's one of those sexy guys in
That's
Derek's
her.
male burlesque review. He's a professional dancer. I honestly don't know his background. I think he's really good. He can do anything. He's been dancing for a long time. As it turns out, he can do it all. Thank you for being here, EJ. And Erica is also let's see. Oh, sorry, yes. Over on the DMN, AM, Baltimore, DC, performing for 3 years, looking to start producing before the end of the year. Okay.
Awesome. We got them all. Praise God. Okay.
Or they. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. So how can you give us intro for you? Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. She's her DMV performance since 2019. Prior experience with Naked, Broadway, doing logistics and hopes to produce. Thank you so much for being here. Also, she's really great at just promoting everybody else's stuff. Always like just supporting us. She's one of the most supportive people in our community. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, now we're ready to move a little bit, and we'll sit down to listen to this long presentation. Okay. Can we play a song? Oh, let's listen to Glorilla and Megan.
Oh, I don't have a speaker up, honey.
cafe had made like $250. So when he came, he was like, normally we would have already made like 15.
The network, 1976. Oh, Faye Dunaway. Marlene Warfield. Her face looks familiar.
We already said we was gonna do, little shop of country.
We did?
I thought so.
Is that public domain?
Apparently, yes.
Really? Wow. Yeah, let's do it. Maybe we have a whole Broadway month. That would be cool. Public domain Broadway musicals.
Yo, this list is insane.
Or what? Stage Door Canteen. Phantom of the Opera. Duke's Tops. Thank you, Ilya. That's very nice of you.
Reefer Madness.
Yes.
Feel like I feel like we discovered this already. We have to do Reefer Madness.
Yes, we do. Is 420 on a Sunday? How funny would it be?
I just want.
But it would be very funny.
I think it was on a Saturday this year. Was one of the hosts of the show.
Okay, y'all, we're back. Can you hear me?
I can hear. A little bit tedious for us creators, but so much information, wealth of knowledge. I'm so excited. So, as you all probably know, or I know that some have changed the last show. The Sweet Spot is a touring burlesque variety show that has been ongoing since 2006. They started in New York at the New York Poets Cafe and expanded to all the major cities in the United States. Before the pandemic, they were touring 30 cities. Obviously, after the pandemic, they had to scale back, but I know for sure that we're still in Atlanta, we're still in Texas and Dallas, Houston and Corpus Christi, in Baltimore, New York, not Philly anymore, DC, California. Vegas is like sometimes yes, sometimes no. But all that being said, they are able to sustain a show that seats over 300 people each show. They usually sell out. They are DIY, so no one is funding them. They are doing this all on their own. And they've been able not only to sustain the show, but pay a competitive rate. From experience, I know that they pay more than any other burlesque producer in this area. They pay more than any other burlesque producer in New York, in Baltimore. The only other place that's competing with them right now is Philly. There's only one place that's paying anything comparable to that. And that place is a infrastructure. So it's different than
5 owners.
Yes. So it's different than just 2 people producing their own show. Their names are L'Oreal and Ainsley. They are Jamaican and Haitian immigrants. So I love a little Black owned business. But more than that, they have been integral in my development as an artist, in my development as a professional artist. And I don't mean like I do professionally, but being a professional artist, like showing up professionally. And so they weren't able to be here because they're traveling right now, but me and Aquarius actually did a Zoom interview with them and asked them a bunch of questions, picked their brains about how they got the success they have, how they've been able to maintain it. And they were very forthcoming, very open. And so I'm really excited for you to hear. You just have to sit and listen. So, and of course, if you have any questions or comments, we can pause and we can address those. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce you to L'Oreal and Ainsley of The Sweet Spot.
Yeah, this is 15 minutes just to prep everybody, and then Ava's gonna go over the rest of the notes just to be cognizant of time and tediousness and all that.
Okay, now hello.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're live.
Good idea. How do I Bluetooth? How do I do that? Yeah. You go to yeah.
And then after the presentation,
thank you.
We'll have a little moment for my notes that I have from the interview. And then we have a panel. So we'll be hearing from Lee, Pretty Ricky, and Bibi Bordeaux to talk about their experiences successfully DIY producing, well, Bibi soon come, right? She's giving her perspective. She's one of the first people in this city that has that started traveling outside of DC to perform. She broke into New York, where Brady of us did, and we want her to give her perspective, not only as a kitten and historian, but as also a professional performer that has made it.
Yeah, I guess the roadmap after that is I'll go to the survey results, and then we'll hear from some of y'all local producers that have been on the scene, and then we'll finish and Q&A after.
Okay, so hello for everybody who's going to be viewing this at the town. Thank you so much, Ainsley, the producers of The Sweet Spot that is, well, by way of New York, now in Baltimore and all over the country. And you all know our lovely Aquarius Moon, who is here as well, and me, Ava. So thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you taking the time because you're very busy. Which is why you're so successful, right? You have a lot of things going on, so many different things. Ainsley is a visual artist, he's a painter, he's a poet. It's just the boss business. And they're taking the time to give us some of their best practices, their experiences, their history of how they've been so successful at producing a crazy successful show that's been going on for over a decade all over the country. So I will let you guys talk about what The Sweet Spot is and what your mission is, and then I'll get into the questions that we have.
Well, okay, so like the elevator pitch, the Sweet Spot's been around for, it's about 18 years now. It is a burlesque show. But it goes back to the original idea of burlesque shows, which was a variety show. So we incorporate a lot of different art forms in addition to striptease. So those include spoken word, poetry, BDSM and kink demos, definitely comedy throughout. And then definitely a lot of audience interaction, games and things of that sort. So that's the sweet spot in a nutshell.
Okay, and was it always this? Like, how did it start out?
So the sweet spot originally started out, it was mostly erotic poetry event. So it was poetry, music, and the dance that we had was always either modern or jazz. So it wasn't until like probably so that was in 2006. We had like, that's how the sweet spot was live music, poetry, either modern or jazz dance, but kind of sexy, right? And then we had live painting on stage. That was the essence of the sweet spot. Then in 2009 was the first time we had like a burlesque dancer. A person was like, I'm a burlesque dancer. That was Chikaba Honeychild. She was the first burlesque performer. Then after her, then came Essence Revealed. And then I think from there.
These are all like household Black burlesque names.
Yeah, and then afterwards, Essence introduced us to Apathy. And since then, we've been doing the show with burlesque dancers instead of like just jazz or modern dancers.
Nice. So when you first started out, was it just you two, or was it more people involved, or?
So Ainsley,
In terms of producing the show, like was it a collective thing, or was it like an individual thing? Like, what was the framework when you first began, that first couple of years?
So when it first began, we only did one show per year. And it started at the New Eureka Poets Cafe. We did one show per year. And that, just so just as a side note, I used to produce other shows. I used to produce a show called Mama Done Burnt the Grits at this. Comedy place in New York, and then I used to produce Second Sundays at New Eureka. And then we started doing the sweet spot as like an erotica version of Second Sundays once a year. And that we noticed that all the other Second Sundays, we have a certain amount of people. When we did the erotica one, which was the event that became a sweet spot, we had 2-3 times more people. It wasn't until 2009 when Sabrina was like, why don't you do it every quarter? It doesn't have to be once a year. And I never thought about erotica.
Once a year to once a quarter.
Outside of February, so I was like, oh, wow, we could do that. So we started doing it every quarter.
And how long did it take for you to go from once a year to once a quarter?
So we did once a year, 2006, 2007, 2008. And 2009, we started doing every quarter.
2009, okay.
So it was like, we did the first one was in May 2009, and we did the May.
So 3 years, okay.
And we kept doing it every quarter after that.
Something that popped into my mind really quickly, you were producing other kinds of events first, and then you started doing a more erotic, sexually charged show. Did you find it harder to sell? I know you're in New York. New York's a different crowd than DC, but did you find it harder to sell
erotica?
Something sexual?
Yes, actually, easier.
Than the work was done.
Was actually much easier.
And
I think also a part of it have to do with how I explain it. Have to do with the actual production itself, right? Because there's other people who work in the shows, but they never lasted. And a big thing for us from the beginning is that we're doing the show for the audience. And that changes everything. Because now people are getting this thing from the show that they want to go tell somebody about. And that became
So that's interesting because from what I experienced in this area of producing, a lot of times, even in places that are already established, they push against what the audience wants in favor of what the owner of the venue wants. I've experienced a lot of people tone down burlesque, even though people love seeing like naked butts, no tights, you know, pasties and things, but the venue be like, so how do you get the buy-in from these places that you had your show? Like, how did you sell the value of your show? Especially since it didn't exist before you began. How did you convince them that it was?
Okay, so from the beginning part, where's that in New York and podcast? So
right, that's a sell already.
no, it's actually
not.
So you have like the New York Imports Cafe is like the mecca of poetry, and the poetry world, erotica is the base bottom.
Used to be.
Used to be.
Okay.
It's like, oh, they don't really respect erotica. It's not considered like elevated, but if you have to be have so much belief in what you are doing that you have to now make the case for why this is important. And if the venue don't get it, it's like going on a date with somebody. They say, hey, listen, I need to be treated this way. And they say, no, you say, okay, not for me. And eventually you find somebody who treats you how you need to be treated.
Okay.
And it's
manifest your opportunity.
It's not easy to find.
Yeah, and
no,
I
it's not.
Over the years.
I'm sorry, L'Oreal, could you scoot over just a little bit so we can see your beautiful face?
Sorry.
Over the years, we've had venues here and there give pushback. I think other things to keep in mind is, let's say they see a dance on stage and they're like, oh, this is extra. There are other things that are happening in the space that balance out that fear that sometimes these venues might feel. So you might have a space where something's happening on stage, and in the audience, they're not respecting what's happening on stage, or they're reacting in a way that starts to make certain people feel unsafe. So it might not be a simple matter of, oh, we don't like extra booty hole on stage, right?
Yeah.
It could be that the space that is created doesn't feel like something.
You don't feel controlled or curated enough.
Right.
And that's sometimes the venue's fear. We've been in a venue in Richmond where there should be no taking off clothes on stage. But
there was, yeah.
We're creating.
I was there.
Yeah, we're creating our artists. So we're like, okay, Rouge did a number where she actually put her clothes on the stage instead of taking it off. And that's the way around it. We did Busboys and Poets, and we couldn't have dancers. We did everything else in the show. I think you danced, right?
And then without striptease.
Or it wasn't you?
It wasn't me.
We did a show, I think we did a show, Busboys and Poets, and we couldn't have the striptease element. And people enjoyed the show just the same without it. So it's almost like you have to give the audience something that any part missing doesn't change the reality of what the show offers.
Okay, I want to backtrack a little bit to give the viewers context into what you actually do and the magnitude of what you do. So starting out, you were the New York Poets Cafe with about how many people in the audience?
New York, the first show we did in New York, we had like 250 people.
200, you started out with 200?
We packed that place to the nosebleeds.
And now in 2024, what is the average size of your audience?
So here goes, right?
I know it varies from city to city.
Well, let me give perspective. So it's been cyclical, and there are different reasons for that. One of the things that I could say early on is the novelty and the underground word of mouth, particularly in New York, created the audiences that were there. But let's say when we first came to the DMV area, first shows packed, but then they shrunk, right? And there are different reasons for that, but then they grew big again. So they're just cycles. Our average right now, it's tough to say. We don't do any rooms smaller than 300, and it's pretty much always full. And
That
then
was my
we do
next
rooms
question.
up to, we do rooms up to.
We do Howard Theater.
900 is center stage in
Yeah,
Atlanta. But yeah, Howard Theater. So, and you know, whether or not those get sold out is, you know, different factors. And I guess we'll get into some of those, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for that information. On the same vein of that, so different cities, different venues, different audiences, how are you able to meet all these different audiences, all these different demographics where they are, and have this crazy following for so many years? How do you keep them engaged even after you get off the stage?
Well, I want to be clear, as you might expect, but I have to say it's been a journey, hasn't been easy. Especially with traveling to a lot of cities where you don't know the audiences. Early on, Ainsley had developed relationships through poetry with different producers, players in different cities. So early on, that was a big help to us. Ainsley would be like, oh, I want to go to Charlotte. I happen to know XYZ poetry producer in Charlotte. Let me connect with this person and start to get the word out. So that's how it grew slowly, you know, particularly in other cities.
I will say also the variety element of what we do really helps to expand the audience. Cause it's like, we might not be able to catch or able to impress 200 people in Baltimore just for burlesque.
Burlesque alone.
There'll be 20 people from poetry, there'll be 40 people from comedy, there'll be some people for BDSM, so all those people together adds up to this bigger audience, and they're getting an experience from all these different communities. And over time, it becomes kind of like the burlesque community.
Okay.
Because now they're like, what's the other place I can see burlesque?
Right.
So that's a
So
part
what do
of,
you, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
I think that's a part of the thing that I think is kind of unique to what we do, is that we will have a poet at the show, or we'll have a comedian, you know? So I think that adds to
I think that's something that a few of us have been talking about, that these like one burlesque dancer after another, it's just, it gets, how many different ways can you watch somebody take off clothes? I mean, I know we're all unique and beautiful, but like, at some point, ass and titties is just ass and titties, you know? I definitely agree with that. So let's get back into like the structure of things, your role as a producer, and what do you take on as your responsibilities as a producer of this show, in terms of the money that performers get paid, advertising, just like on a day-to-day, what are your responsibilities as the producer?
So Ainsley and I both work together. Ainsley mostly works with booking the venues. And I could say in terms of challenge, that might be one of our top two biggest challenges. And then Ainsley also does a lot with marketing, PR, things like that, social media. On my side, I do all of the structure of getting, you know, liaising with the venues, getting the shows online, getting them selling. Early on, we weren't online, right? We were going around selling tickets hand to hand.
We used to mail tickets to California. Somebody would buy a ticket and we'll mail it to them. Because we used to be in New York, California first.
Yeah.
Special experience. I would love to get a ticket in the mail.
Right? Old school. So then I brought us online. Then there was also, we used to work with Groupon quite a bit. That was a big part of our business before the pandemic.
And I think we should talk about the fact that so Groupon wasn't necessarily the income source. It was kind of a PR source.
Marketing source.
So it's just their marketing is just there to help us get the word out. That's why when people come to the show, we ask for their emails. A lot of those people see from Groupon, so we use that to build out there.
Right, right. And then I do all the liaising with the performers, and then the structural part of the show, I set that up, and then Ainsley and I work on the creative part of building the show. And yeah, and then I do all the tour managing.
But also, I think an important part of our relationship with the performers and everything, I came from traveling and performing as a solo artist. And what I realized is I'm like, I wanna, everybody on the sweet spot, I wanna treat them how I imagined I could have been treated when I was traveling and performing. So like, we get hotels for our performance when we're on the road. Like, you have to share rooms because we're not a multi-billion corporation, right? So like, hey, you're gonna have to share rooms, but it's better than staying on somebody's couch, you know, or better than, so we always get a standard hotel. We cover people's travel as much as we can, and we try to pay them above market value, above what anybody else is paying, 2, 3, 4 times more. And we
let me hold that thought because we got a 9-minute warning, and I just want to close this, open it back up, and we'll just continue the conversation before it cuts out, okay?
Yeah, so that's where we're gonna stop. And then Ava's gonna summarize the rest of it so that we can.
Here, they're talking about, what Ainsley's talking about, coming from being a touring performer himself and dealing with all of that papers on travel and accommodation, which is why that budget has been built so strongly into their model. And then they talk about
Along with the Groupon, I used to manage a startup, and Groupon obviously is not a good financial model, but it's phenomenal for PR because the SEO is already built in. So I think that I don't see a lot of shows in the area on Groupon, but I think if your shows are needing more SEO support, that could be an option.
no, he was saying that when audience members come to his shows, their show, they ask for their email addresses. They do it in a tricky way too. They do a raffle. And they basically say, okay, I'm going to take the first email address that I get. And everybody emails or texts their email address to try to get the raffle ticket. And now they have everybody's email because everyone entered. And so they use those emails to send the Groupon advertisements or whatever, or send advertisements for the upcoming shows, or just news about the Sweet Spot. It's called the Sweet Spot News. And so, and they're not tricky to the point where like they're spamming people. They let them know that with this email address, all they're gonna get is updates about the upcoming show. That's literally it. When they're gonna be back in the city, they don't send any like other kind of stuff. So nobody is usually not going back and like unsubscribing because they don't inundate them with emails. This conversation actually moved into how they're able to pay these fees. So in 2006, they started out paying their performers $100 per act. And my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, still paying $100 right now, all over the country. So our, inflation, our cost of living has increased for everybody. And to be clear, this is a producer's town hall because we're not saying it's our fault that we're not getting paid this amount. We're saying, how can we come together so we all can get paid more? So as producers, we can actually make money from our productions instead of just making sure everybody gets paid, but then we leave feeling depleted, Like, even if a performer is getting paid a competitive rate, to me, that's not success, because if the producer's going home broke, or the negative, then that's not successful. And I don't feel good making money and knowing the producer's going home, like, can't feed their cat. You know what I mean? So they started out with 100, and now, I don't know, they pay more than that. They pay more than double that. I'll say that, because I want to, but they did not do it in the video. They did not say specifically what they pay, so I don't want to release that information. No, it's double. It's more than 200. It's more than 250. I'll leave it there. That does not include tips. The other part, that's perfect, because it leads right into the other part of the conversation. So How they negotiate with venues is different from city to city, as you can imagine, from venue to venue, even in the city. But what they said 100% is that the best deal that they have come across is the bar minimum. But we're keeping in mind that they have a 300-person audience and
They have proper staffing at the bar.
And they have hosts that they set themselves up for success from the very beginning. They talk to the bartenders and they say, hey, this is what we need to make. I'm going to be checking with you on the hour to see if we're reaching those minimums. And they also said to make sure that if you do this, to check both registers, because sometimes they'll only give you one register and be like, oh, no, we haven't made it yet. And then try to steal your money. So like, be careful about that. But they prime the bartenders and say, hey, what's your name? We're going to be shouting you out. What are your special drinks? Then they get on the mic. They have their own drinks now called the leg spreader, the deep throat, and the threesome. You get all three with threesome, right? Right. It's like fun, right? All of a sudden now you want to get a lemon drop because it's called a leg spreader, you know? And so they're like, hey, the host on the mic, like, don't forget, get your leg spreader if you want to go home tonight with somebody, you know? And that really gets them amped up. I notice people do drink a lot at their shows. Naming the bartenders out, you know, their names, and then checking on that. It really works for them. They said verbatim that venues that are doing a split of your door sales do not do that. That is, they are robbing you.
Unless it's a very small percentage.
It's a very small percentage. Yeah. But that from their experience, the best thing that they can do is the bar minimum, because they have figured out a way to make sure the people drink enough to meet those bar minimums. And the risk involved with it is much less, because if they leave and they don't meet the bar minimum, maybe they won't get that venue again. But if they agree with some door sales, then the venue could possibly take all of the sales and they have to pay out of pocket for performance, blah, 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 blah. So that was something that I took for me, because I've been trying to negotiate with venues myself and trying to figure out what the best way. Wasn't quite sure. So I really loved that information.
And they also really tried to advise to not, unless it's like a very special occasion, to not pay for a venue.
Yes.
So this is a collaborative situation. So either they're getting a percentage of the bar or there's another situation, but most people are struggling with the negotiation with the venue. So that's really also the point of the collective, is for us to get financial experts, to get merger and acquisition experts to be able to advocate for us in these deals, because they also said many venues are scamming us. They're making so much at the bar and we are drowning in debt trying to pay for the venue when they're making 6-8 times at the bar, when we could have just negotiated a better deal. We went in with a poorly structured deal.
They also cite, bar minimums are also still technically.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, from the survey results, it sounded like a lot of people are like, I'll pay $1,000 for this. As opposed to a bar minimum, we're gonna hope and pray most people buy a drink or buy a snack, like, you know, they're probably planning on buying something. So you're right, it is like putting down. But I think, I think we'll get into this about the people who own these venues are actually not very business acumen. They're really not that smart. And so it's a better structured deal to be able to give a percent.
You touched on it a bit. They said that the staff is such a big part of it too, though. So
yeah,
you can push the drinks and everything how much you want, but if they don't properly staff the venue, so they make it a point to, when they're negotiating the venues, when they're talking to the owners or whatever, that's a big part of it too. How many people are going to be here per, you know, like how many servers per person in the audience, and that really
1 to 50 was the recommended. 1 to 50. This is for 300 and up. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they're doing bar minimum deals, so they're meeting their minimum, but then are they getting a percentage?
Sometimes they're taking like 10 to 20%. Yeah, that's why I think anything under 30% and under, from my research and talking to them, sounds like fair, because the venue has to make some type of profit. Anything over that, though, now we're getting into them pouring into the production budget.
Well, if I personally want to say, like, it depends on kind of what your production is, right? How large of a production you have, how many people are involved in your production, how much of that initial money are you spending out, and what those deals look like. Even if it didn't.
Yeah, so
we'll
type it in.
You're gonna make money back, over that time. So it is a catch-22 with the deals, and a lot of places will not allow you to make the move because it's their place. They need to say we can go somewhere else, especially see, we all know that. So it kind of depends on what production you have and how much that production costs. Really is like the ground where I would kind of start before I would even make a deal. And like I said, even if you're doing the bar, that's still most of them will say like $3 grand, over $2,000, whatever that is, but your casting costs over that. So there's variations of that, but I totally agree with a lot.
This is just throwing it out there because we got so many amazing people in the room. Would it be a possibility for us to go in and invest in a venue of our own?
That's the dream.
That's a dream, right? Yeah.
You can write it in our
Just throwing it out
notes.
there. Yeah.
Can you put it in the chat?
I did.
Okay, good.
That's the goal.
Any other comments, questions?
I was just gonna say what you said. In my experience, DC venues have a very considerable mentality, right? So then, and then when you add in the fact that we have a limited number of venues, right? So we have small venues, we have very large venues, not a whole lot of venues in between. So then you're like stuck with what is available to you. And, if what's available to you isn't going to negotiate with you, it's not respond to a show, you compromise the quality of your show in order to put on a show. I'm just really interested to know how people have found ways around this. Because we love the venue that we're at right now, but there's just so many issues with location and how much they want to take of your ticket sales. But I need a venue that at least does 200 seats. That's not going to bend me over without consent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, we're on it.
This is actually something we want to address, this is just their point of view.
Yeah.
Commenting on it, Aquarius has some really great, kind of solutions to these things we're talking about, all these negotiations not being able to, the thing you're talking about, the grants and things like that. Basically, coming together and
Creating a resource library.
Yeah.
What are the best venues? What are the best structured contracts?
The resources, those money, figure
Right.
out a way to come together and us have our pool of grant money or whatever kind of money that we can all dip into to fund our project.
And I guess maybe we didn't frame this. When I sent you all the survey, I was doing a lot of the research from film production and media production, adjacent industries, modeling, dancing. And in those industries, the fiduciary, the person responsible for the finances of the entire production is the producer. It's only in burlesque where we have an ideology where the venue has to put in. That's only in our industry. In every other industry, the producer is the financer. They are the person fundraising. They are the person going out, and then you're responsible to negotiate with the venue. And that's where I think we all need help. We need help with the money, and we need help. They talked about the fact that Ainsley, if I'm correct, does the majority of the negotiating. They do not take L'Oreal seriously. I've been in conversations. I bring Michael with me to be on the call. They don't even look at me, and they dap him up like a bro. So another issue we're facing is the homophobia, the anti-Blackness in DC. They're not taking it seriously. And so we have to come together. And I think if 25 producers came together and said, hey, we have these productions and they're awesome and they're different. We have Nerdless, we have Classic, we have all these things. Can we have this venue at a better negotiated rate? Can the venue give us a $5,000 stipend for the performers over the course of 3 to 6 months? So I just want to premise, that's not the way, that was just the framework I took, was that there's a possibility where we can arm the production, the producers, with enough financial mobility so that you're not worried about paying performers because we have financiers covering that.
I just wanted to speak as one of the people who produces who does not pay for my venue. We do a monthly at DC Brow Brewery. It's called DC Burlesque. We pitched to them after we did the Nerdvana experience back in 2021. 22, the first Nerdvana experience, and that was completely through our networking, us knowing that they had done prior events. They had done like wrestling events, so they were a really good DIY space. They could hold a bunch of people. And now with that space, we've been able to flourish. We never go in the red. Just to
love that.
We never go in the red. We've produced an infrastructure so that we have money in the bank to pay people on time. Now we are up against an issue with where do we bring more money in so that we don't price out our audience, so that we can continue to create the experience that we do. And one of those things that we found that is most helpful to us is while we are looking into grants and all of that big money things, one of the things that has helped us is just going into our community and finding the regulars, the people who are always there, the people who are always throwing the money, and figuring out how can we present them with some sort of sponsorship that looks good to them. And we recently, as of Friday, procured a travel sponsorship so we can pay all of our outside performers. And again, it's not like a huge rate. We pay $100 for people to travel in, but
the tips are kind.
Yes,
the tipping culture is there.
I ain't even gonna lie, the tipping culture is like that, but even that helps performers, and it helps like infrastructure in the community, and it helps people put faith in DC as a whole. I've heard a lot of people don't want to travel to DC because the common thing is there's nothing in DC. So just saying to them, or playing to what they were saying with not paying for a venue and doing the bar minimum, for us that has helped us thrive a lot. But we also realize that we are deeply in the minority, but we're also kind of like an island a little bit because we are the nerdy weirdos. So like use us as resources. We have a lot of shit here. Paying, like just bringing more money in, because what we want to do is expand. What we want to do is move out of burlesque, and we want to start moving into doing essentially the Empire Strips Back, but like for real.
Yes. Yes.
So that is the end goal for us. But right now, and also with the festival, one of the things for us was really building an infrastructure in DC where we have connections in multiple communities. For example, I came from cosplay, so a lot of my ties in the convention scene helped me with building out burlesque. Just the aesthetic of burlesque, how we make it sort of a market space, it lends itself to different places that we have put our feet down in. So the thing for us now is just bringing in the money and bringing in the people who see what we're doing, but want to invest in that. Because at this point, we sell out at 150. And we usually do that, and that works for us well. But when we have the conversation of how do we pay people more? How do we also pay for our sound guy, we pay for we pay for our videographer, our photographer, and also those are incomeless expenses, to pay for a photographer, to pay for a videographer, but those things help with our marketing, with our promotion, just having quality video, having quality photos, and it also helps our community, and it helps people. I think personally, it helps people invest in DC burlesque to have a preserved history of what we're doing. So that's why we pay for videographers, we pay for photographers, but their prices go up. They know their worth. So it becomes a thing with me where I'm like, here I am paying them and our prices are not going up. So figuring out where we can like bring more money in, that's what we are up against right now.
People with deep pockets used to, like, honestly, there's an element of burlesque that is sex work, and a lot of it and sexy work, and people are willing to fund sex sells, just like Sweet Spot said. And unfortunately, because burlesque is such an empowering place for a lot of femmes, a lot of queer folk, a lot of those toxic people have a lot of fucking money. And they're no longer coming to our shows because they no longer have a safe space to be toxic. They no longer have a safe space to touch us without our consent. I'm not saying we need to bring them back, but we need to replace the toxic deep pockets. The toxic deep pockets are gone. We need to replace that. And they're there.
I don't want to go too much off topic, but you said something that reminded me of something that L'Oreal and Ainsley said in terms of something that can impact the quality of your show, whether or not somebody comes back. And they said the lighting and the sound. And that's something as a newer producer that I'm like, well, if the show is good, it's good. Shut the fuck down. But no, they were saying that this is another thing, L'Oreal, their team, I always see Ainsley running around just trying to make everything work, and L'Oreal is always in the audience, like as an audience member and like watching intently like she's never seen the show before. And what I've noticed about that is that she gets intel like right on the ground. Like she hears what people are saying. She sees how they're reacting. She sees whether or not the show looks good. And she said that a lot of times, somebody would not come back because the lighting was terrible. You couldn't even see the people. And you'll never know that they didn't come back because the lighting and the sound was terrible. But that's just something I wanted to, before my ADD let it go, that for us, just a little note that.
That's my husband who came in and just like.
Hi, Sean.
Hey,
Sean.
Transition to the. We work together as a duo. We do a lot together.
Yes.
He sits in the crowd and talks to our regulars. He gets a lay of the land of who comes to our shows, and that helps ingratiate him because he is a white man. It's difficult to know him. Safe. He is our people, but also he does get that intel for us, and inadvertently that led to us having better accessibility practices.
I love that.
Hearing that feedback.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any other? We're running out of time, so I want to get to our panelists so we can pick their brains, ask some questions. But are there any comments or anything that we want to?
So it's going to require a lot more time, but I want to hear about the grant process, what we can do, what resources that we can combine to make that, like, yes, one, you want a professional. Two, if people want to be beneficiaries, they really should be involved, have some skin in the game. Not everyone can write, some people might have photography assets, like we can all contribute something. I really want to have that conversation, I guess, another time.
Because I want to honor everybody's time and make sure everybody has time to speak and everything. I think my suggestion to all of us is that we form a collective and we meet quarterly. And then as a democratic group, I'm gonna like spearhead it, but everybody's going to take turns and lead the session, and the needs of the group will be assessed. The goal is fiduciary support and financial literacy within this art space. Somebody who's been mentoring me through this is Pucks Aplenty. Pucks in their first year of financial management got $100,000 through a fiduciary sponsor. So in this realm, if we had a collective that would have ended up being a 501c3, instead of us writing the grants, the Coleman Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates, they already have $150,000 and they would just disseminate it to us. They do the taxes, they write the grants, but we have to sell a crazy story. And but I think it'd be pretty easy to sell that 3 geographic entities that will all harmoniously coordinating, we've got 25 different shows on the docket. We need this grant to disseminate amongst the
I think
producers.
we can leverage DC Burlesque history. It's so deep in the city.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can leverage DC Burlesque history. It's such an integral part of entertainment in the city. And we have so many academic, DC is a very academic, very smart city, a bunch of smarties. I think that getting us into museums and things like that, it would be a lot easier than I possibly imagine. Sometimes I think too small, but I think this is the goal, is to come together and not lose ourselves in our individual brands at all, but just to kind of a way to sneak in under the radar and get that money that everybody else is getting, you know?
And the money's there, by the way, it's there. It's not like we're making something up. It's, we have to compete for the money. So there are traditional dance troops, they're getting 500, 600,000. Their stuff is public record. But that's just what people are used to. They're not used to a bunch of weird, queer people taking their clothes off and being funny on a mic. So just to let you know what we're doing right now, we're about to do a panel with Lee and Bibi, 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna quickly share this, I'm sorry, and Ricky. I'm gonna share the survey results in 5 minutes. I'm gonna send it all out to you. It's very long. The survey's incredible if you read all of your responses. And then the last 15 minutes will be a local panel of people who wanna self-elect to come and speak. I already know Maki said that she wanted to speak, and whoever else would like to speak.
We're gonna hear from panelists, like, because they have done what we're all trying to do, like have sustained shows that are well attended and they're able to pay. But we also have people in the audience like Siobhan that we also want to hear from, and like Maki.
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
that we also want to hear from as well. So it's going to be an open conversation, but we wanted to make sure that we carved out specific time for the superstars that are doing it. So please come up. So they already introduced themselves.
You might just need to get on the table so we can hear.
The reason that we asked Lee to join this conversation and give their insight is because they're so connected in the DC government law. If I'm not mistaken, are you still employed with the Arts and Humanities?
No, I was with the Creative Affairs Office.
Okay, so we had to move on, okay? Had to go more bigger fish to fry. But you were working with them for a little bit, weren't you?
I spent 3 years with the Creative Affairs Office, which is part of the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. So produce the Mayor's Arts Awards, Emancipation Day concerts, those types of events. My next role, which I can't announce yet, I think will be able to benefit everyone in this room. So that's another reason I want to be here today. So yeah.
And then we already heard a lot about what's going on with Pretty Boy Drag. And Pretty Ricky's here to talk about how you've been able, along, I know other people have been integral in this process, but been able to maintain a show in DC that's been running for how many years? 8 years.
Yeah.
And just to just be real, drag queens have run the city for a very long time. And so I remember the beginnings of Pretty Boy Drag and not pushed back, but kind of really drag kings, you know? And now it's like, damn, drag kings, you know, everybody's rushing to go see. So that's been amazing. Just one of you, and then we talked about Lee been the first of us to break out of DC and go and really start traveling and touring and stuff and making a name for themselves outside of DC. At least since I know some of y'all are old, you've been here for longer, but this class of burlesque, this generation of burlesque. And then also the kidney aspect. It's gone unsaid too much, but kidney is so important in shows. It really makes a difference in the smoothness of the show and how many tips you make. Bibi makes you money.
Yeah, she
okay.
made us money today.
I made us some money today. Okay. Even when she's not kidney, she's like, okay, y'all. And she'll come back covered in money. Meanwhile, I've been on stage all night and I got $2. So I think Bibi is very good. She's good at human psychology in that respect too. So let's start from this way on. I see it as like a progression from a performer to a producer. So Bibi, can you tell us how did you start traveling and presenting yourself as a professional performer that is worth somebody flying you out and doing all the frills?
Well, I think we all know that here in DC, there's all different types of burlesque, which is a great thing. There's nutterlesque, there's classic burlesque, there's all different types. But I was noticing, because I'm originally from Houston, that there the scene was a little different. And it operates differently than here. It's not as grassroots as here. A lot of the shows in Houston at the time were produced by Kiki Maroon. And I don't know if you guys know Kiki, but she's like literally a production badass, another person who did everything on her own and started doing it in Vegas. So that's really how it got started with the traveling. I just was already going to Houston. I was already going to New Orleans to see family. And I thought, why not try to make some of my flight money back by performing? And I never really thought that it would become something that was a big thing until I started actually sending out portfolios to folks. So nobody knew me. I sent my portfolio out to a whole bunch of people, got rejected by a lot of y'all's faves, rejected by so many people. And it took Calamity Chain was the first person who actually saw something in me. Once I got booked with Calamity at Nurse Betty, then Bathtub, one of the producers at Bathtub saw me, Bathtub Jen. And so it really was, like a lot of you guys have said, just actually getting your feet on the ground in another place so that they can actually see you. And then the hard part is taking what you've learned in other places and bringing it back here. And so once I started the blog and I started talking about a lot of things and I got voted on the top 50 list, I felt like, well, it's an accomplishment, but then it's like, what do you do with this? Like, how do you, and I'm not necessarily, I don't think I'm a natural born leader. I think, you know, I like to ask people for money and that helps in burlesque. But, you know, if anything, I just felt like it was a chance for me to show a part of DC to other places. People who say, oh, there are no performers in DC. Well, now at least they know one person, you know? And so it helps. Like Lena DeLuna is coming. I don't know if you guys know her. I told her about your show, Maki, so I don't know if she reached out to you. Lena DeLuna is awesome. So even though she doesn't know shit about the DC burlesque scene, at least she knows me. She's like, I saw BB, I know BB performs, and it was some, you know. So then that becomes a lifeline. So even if we don't have a show, when you go and travel, it really is a way to put new blood back into the scene. Granted, we can, you know, pay their headliner fees or anything like that, but.
That also speaks to something that we didn't get a chance to hear from the Sweet Spot earlier before it got cut off. We were asking them how they got the word around before, because they were not pre-internet, but the social media wasn't as, you know, popping as it is now.
Yeah.
And they definitely relied on a lot of word of mouth, a lot of, but one thing that I liked that they said, it was in the very beginning, very grassroots, like we didn't have a following, so we really had to depend on the cast members to help promote the shows. And their thing was that they would have each person from their respective backgrounds sell a certain amount of tickets, but they would get a percentage of that ticket. So it was, they said they found, they found that people were more apt to sell because they stood to benefit from it. So, you know, if you're getting paid $100 for their show, but then you sold 20 tickets, maybe you get 200 on top of that. Or I don't know the percentage, they didn't tell me that, but I thought that was really cool. I've never thought about doing that at work, so that's something. But anyway, what do you think the benefit of you being a kid for so long is before performing?
So the benefit of kidning is that you get to see all of the stuff that goes on in the background while being like a second in command. So I've seen so many producers, many of you in this room, on show day, and it's so stressful. I can see the stress like coming out of your pores almost. So as a kitten, it's like you can anticipate certain needs, right? So like, let's have all the cleaning supplies here. Let's make sure we have a safe space to put all the money in the back, the tips. Let's make sure all the performers have their setup. So it kind of primes you to produce in a way, but it also lets you know all of those scary parts. So because I know all those scary parts, I've been slow to produce, even though I know that this is the next logical step. And I think kidning is going to make me an even better producer when it comes, because some kittens can kind of destroy a show as well. So that's why I want to start the school, you know, because I really think it's important to sort of teach those ground up foundational skills And I truly believe that kittening is like, not everybody has to do it, but for a lot of people, it helps them become a better performer and a better producer. And I really love it. And I think it's an art form on its own, if you take it seriously. So I think, yeah, I'll probably kitten my own shows. Callie Pigeon kittens her own shows. I don't know if she's still in there, but some of us just love it.
And I haven't kittened in a while. What are the going rates right now for kittening?
It's a great question. In a lot of places, they still pay kittens $50. In some locations, they pay kittens $25 or tips. Yes, this is still happening. And in other shadier locations, they tell the kittens, this is your way to get close to us. You do this for free, volunteer. So we've been trying to get the going rate for kittens to at least get paid the same as one act. That's usually what the standard is, because performers do a little bit more as kittens. Revealing your body and dancing and doing choreo is a lot more involved than stage managing for the most part. But usually one act is a good rate, you know.
So, can you give us a little bit, just a background of Pinpoint Drag, how it started, where it began, and like where it is now?
Sure. So I started performing in 2013. And I was with the DC Kings, which was a very long-standing drag troupe here in Washington, DC. And you were paid $25 a slot, not a performer, a slot. And it was a good night if you, so that means that if there are 8 slots in a show, that's what you get. So if you're doing a group act with 4 people, y'all better figure out how the fuck you are splitting $25.
No, live drag doesn't know numbers.
It was, and this is no shade against the producer at the time. And I want to make that very clear. It was just what it was, and it was not good enough for me. And then also drag king was very, very, very white. So when I started Pretty Boy Drag with Chris J and Lexi Starr, the purpose of it was to create a space for first and foremost Black folk, and then other people of color to be able to have a safe space to do drag kinging, but on top of that was, can we do this at a larger scale? Can we do better productions, bigger productions? Can we have good sound? Can we have good light? Can we have a DJ? Will people buy, you know, if people are used to paying $10, which is not unusual for whether it's drag kings or queens, $10, $15 at the door, that doesn't pay my performers. Like, unfortunately, that's just a reality. I can't pay a good wage to these performers who are putting in weeks, sometimes months of work into an act at $15. So can I sell $40 tickets? What does that look like? As an audience member, what are your expectations? If you're paying $40 to come see a show, what is it that you want to see so that I can give that to you so you'll come back? But it was tricky, like figuring it out. And there was definitely pushback, especially about the part about focusing on Black folk. I was very, very surprised at the pushback that I got from people. The question of why do Black people need their own space came up. And you know, it was hard to like hear that, especially from people I had performed with before. But the makeup for it on the other end was finding Black performers, people who had never been a drag king before because they didn't know that Black people were drag kings. Like the amount of people that I know who have tried drag that are either Black or a person of color who has told me I've actually never seen somebody who looks like me as a drag king. That was also what spurred us on to start the production. I feel like you asked me another question.
Yeah, I don't know if it was on track for right now, but where are you now? Like, what's the progression? So that started in what year?
2016. So we started planning in 2015, and our very first show was January of 2016.
And so now, same questions I asked Sweet Spot. What is your average on time? Are you selling out? And are you able to pay a competitive?
So we do, it's, okay, so pre-pandemic, we were selling out our shows very consistently. Post-pandemic has been a lot fucking harder which maybe we just need to schedule something completely independent to talk about ticket sales, because, you know, we kind of like met eyes on that. It's been so damn hard. But at our peak, I would say that we were selling out, sometimes, if anybody's ever been to the Beer Baron was our first place. I mean, there were times we were selling 150 tickets. Can you imagine 150 people in that space? It was fucking awful. So then we moved to Union Stage, which has 225 seats, and we were selling that out. So our audience was for a long time around 200, but it has dipped significantly. I would say more like between 75 and 100 now, which of course makes it harder for pay. But in terms of pay, we have a sliding scale. So our shows are, Pretty Boy Drag differs in some ways, is that we are not just a production, but we're also a troupe. Our shows have required rehearsals, and people, Fox is actually one of the members of Pretty Boy Drag. And we always open with a group number and we always close with a group number. And then we have, during these rehearsals, people are like, oh, I need somebody to take this verse, or I need somebody, you know, I need somebody to pretend to be an ice cream man in my particular act. And so we tack on extra pay for the extra effort that you put in. So you get paid more if you have to learn lyrics. You get paid more if you have to buy a costume for it. And then when we're able, we try and supplement people's costuming, because sometimes our acts are very unique for that particular show. So, you know, if I'm like, I need you to come out on stage as a gay ass bear, but like in a literal bear costume, it's unfair of me as a producer to like have you take that financial burden on of a bear costume that you will only fucking wear for this particular show, for this particular act. So we try and supplement for that as much as we can. So people can earn, you know, our base pay is 100, but you can earn, you know, the sky's the limit, depends on how tired you are at the end of the show. But we've had people who are volunteer for 4 or 5 acts in the show, and it stacks up after a while.
Do you mind sharing your venue?
Oh yeah, I have, there are no secrets here. So we're at Union Stage. Union Stage is 30% of ticket sales plus $400.
You keep the 30%?
No, we keep 70%. They take 30%. I'm sorry, let me clarify. They take 30% of ticket sales, and then they take a fresh $400 off of top of that. And then also, just as an FYI, I just inquired about the same company that owns Union Stage also owns, well, they don't own, they do the booking for Howard, and Howard is $6,000 for the whole place. So just
Pearl Street Live is the same structure.
Yeah.
400 bar and 70%.
I don't want to derail us too much, Ava, but you said something that are you actually at, what are audiences expecting for certain ticket prices?
Yeah.
And Pearl Street Warehouse was a wonderful show. A couple of us have done it. It was such a good show. It got canceled right on the time you were supposed to do it. And it was like, this woman has a huge following. Jenny Langer is considered a blues singer.
And then didn't market it.
Yeah.
They did not market it.
Yeah, I never saw them on the website.
Yeah. Pearl Street's a huge venue, beautiful venue.
Live music.
Sorry.
Such a shame.
Yeah, no.
That's all.
I was just gonna flag that I would love to follow up and when we talk about venues, to talk about not just the financial partnership, but the marketing partnership as well. And it's like,
And all of them are gonna try to sell you that on that, right? Oh, we'll market for you, we'll market with you. They're all full of shit. Every single solitary last one.
Yeah.
Not really. I think they think marketing for the show is that they posted it on their Instagram that one time. And like, that's not marketing for a fucking show.
Isn't that we're in the wrong, okay, because Maki, with DC Bralesque, right? I know you're trying to move out of this venue, but they seem to love the nerdy vibe.
Yeah, no, they're not trying to move. Right.
Okay.
We're trying to do more in addition to.
Okay, but they market you guys, right?
Yes, I would say for collaboration, it is the best. We have a liaison, their name is Paulette. They're a queer little gremlin, so amazing, but they're basically our advocate for the space. They're the one who connected us to our audio person. They're the one who, once we get in, we will send the plan to them. We'll send all of our printables and they'll have the printables printed out for us. We will also send our marketing to them before we start marketing. So that includes our poster, any copy that we have, so that it's super easy for them. And we will let them know, we are going to collaborate you on this date. Please accept the collaboration on this date. But also that depends on if the venue is willing to work with you. But some of the things that have made it easier for us is just having that template there for them of like, here's the marketing material, here's the promotional material, here's the copy. Cause yeah, they're really good about promoting us, and making sure that we're seen, and we're very, very grateful for that. So yeah, not looking to move out just yet.
I think, I'm so sorry. There's just one person that won't.
Yes, your deal with the Union Stage, does that include a minimum on food orders for the audience or anything like that?
Security.
Yeah, so they do provide security there, and something that I don't know whether I like or dislike, so they handle all the ticket sales, so we can also talk about that as well. I don't know how I feel about that. Because then you have to beg to figure out like where you are when you're selling tickets, so that has been tricky. But John, who is the person who does the booking for Union Stage and for Howard Theater, is an incredibly nice man. He's very responsive. We've definitely had some shows where I was like, ooh, I'm sorry we didn't like bring more people, and they're like, we love having you. Like, at the end of the day, they are also fans of the thing that we do, so they just like having us there. So having that kind of relationship with a venue can kind of be a nice little security blanket for you when you do have those shows where you're like, ooh, hi mom, the only audience member, right? Like, if the venue loves you.
So your only risk,
Financial risk, and the money you're paying your.
Yeah, and most of our shows, I would say that our budget is somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 to pay performers, people who actually work the show. We also, for our big shows, we hire dom strippers to do birthday lap dances. So like we have it's $400 is a lot when you're like, shit, how am I gonna pay my DJ and my photographer? Yeah. It's not bad, but we can talk about Union Stage after this, but like I do have some other things to say about the venue.
For the sake of time, what do you think, I'll give you like two of the main reasons or contributors to your success?
The community aspect amongst our performers, that has been huge. So having people invested in how well the production does, not just from a personal standpoint of, oh, I'm gonna make this amount of money, but I got folks out there who are like, pretty boy, drag or die, baby. And I'm like, ain't nobody dying over here, but I love the enthusiasm. So I think the community aspect of it and making it something that people are proud to like kind of be a part of. And then also having, I think we kind of touched on this before, always having photos and videos of your events. And then also like as a small plug, we started doing live social media on the day of. I have a person that is streaming to our Instagram during the show. They are streaming snippets. They're taking interviews with audience members. Is this your first time? Why do you like it? That has also been really, really helpful to have that. Cassidy does it in case anybody needs it for their show.
Thank you so much. We have to move on. I think that there might be some like.
No, you're going. We're just saying in terms of the question.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, to
Good.
move on the conversation. Thank you so much for your input.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you said, what was the first thing you said? The community aspect.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off of that because that's also something that Sweet Spot said, in terms of their longevity and having, just a successful show is building that community.
Yeah.
shows, like,
Because.
I don't know how we can do that in our individual shows, but like, there's not a way, if this pretty boy driver die energy, it's something that I'm really investing in. Y'all remember the DC Weirdo show? Yes, they had a huge.
Literally my Bible.
Yeah, like
The
huge about
biggest-
it.
The biggest point I said a lot of people that are successful things is that you kind of have, you have a brand.
Yeah.
And you can all, exactly, you can all be producers and put on the same shows, but your brand is your brand, and if you're unaware of your brand, then you really don't have
Yeah.
following or longevity.
And I'll say, oh, sorry. And I was gonna say with a brand, it's a leave behind, so at every one of my parties, people get a button. And people have been collecting buttons since 2012. And people will be like, oh, I have a button. Yeah, so it's like, people need that to feel like they are a part of something. So it's like, thinking about that as part of your marketing. How are people thinking about you all the time, not just when it's.
When the show is
when the show
happening,
is happening.
yeah.
You're chiming in, did you feel like?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, but I can tell you how much we pay. I can tell you. What do you want to know?
Oh, yeah, get into it.
We, okay, yeah.
I was around at the inception of Black Space. Maker's Lab was before that though, right? You were producing in-person events, queer focus, BIPOC queer focus events that were widely successful. Honestly, those are some of the most like only static things that I had to do back in the day. Like if you want to see Black and gay, you go to Maker's Lab. So can you tell us about how you began and where you are now?
I actually started in 2012 with a party called Freak Out. It's a club called Gen Lounge now. It's like St. James, kind of had a couple iterations. And I wanted to have a space during Black Pride that was like accessible for folks and didn't have a dress code. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to create it. So because I wanted the space, the bar was like, well, you can have it here, but you're gonna have to pay for the DJ. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And we'll just see what happens. And then all these people showed up. And then the bar was like, oh, you're really good at this. And it was with a team of people. So the next year they're like, we'll give you a budget so you can pay for the DJ. And then somebody on the team was like, we want a budget and we want 20% of the bar. And I was like, I didn't know we could do that, right? And so it's like over time, just like learning that people will invest in this because they're making way more money than the $500 they gave us for the DJ and the cut of the bar.
How long did it take for them to realize that start offering those?
It was after the first year. Yeah, it was after the first year. They were like, oh, we like this event. We like the energy. Just people were really excited about it. Then that got us over to like Tropicalia, which was, you know,
R.I.P.
Yeah, which was a great time from what I can remember, you know, but it was like, we kept the door, but they got all of the bar. And so, and I know, and our crowd was drinking, so they were doing like quite well. So I guess for ticket sales, that was fine for us, but then I had to get sober. And so I was like, I can't create these type of spaces anymore. And so in the pandemic, we moved to virtual spaces. So it was easier to do like zero proof. But now with like Black in Space, we did a production in 2022, and we were able to get grant funding because people see what we're doing as like health and wellness, right? And so we're creating spaces that don't center alcohol. So we were able to get a $20,000 grant to produce a show with the art. And so I can say to performers, you're going to get at a minimum $250 to be a part of this. And if you're coordinating a group act, then you'll get another $150 for your time for coordination. And so it's easier for me to produce and I don't have to stress. But that's when it's in the theater and it's like a show. Now in this iteration, I forgot to do my shameless plug. Black Joy Disco is Sunday, May 19th. It is a collaboration with Willie Mammoth Theater. We're taking over the theater. But with that, Willie is giving us some money, but it's not enough to cover the whole show. And then it's things like light and sound. Willie does not have the sound system to support a proper dance party. So that was an expense I wasn't prepared for. And then it's like, oh, we want to have a bar. Well, their non-alcoholic options are like soda. And I was like, that's not what I'm going for. So now I got to bring in a bar. And so the expenses just keep like going up and up and up. And so now I'm in a space of securing sponsorships. And so, you know, I think to this point, we probably raised about like $6,000 in sponsorships, but the production itself costs way more than that if I want to eat at the end of the day. And so I'm still in this exploratory space where I want to have really dope dance parties that are zero proof. I just don't know if I financially can do this unless I can find someone who's willing to underwrite what this could be. And so I think I do also like, I'm gonna have to move into this week is like micro sponsorships where I'm hitting up folks who I know have the money and just be like, I need you to put $250 towards this because also the community that I'm serving, you know, like can't necessarily, they're not gonna pay like more than $25. And so it's like, okay, that's great. I understand that. I wish it could be free, actually. So I'm going to raise the rest of the money to keep the space as accessible as possible, and also have a commitment, because it's Trans Pride Weekend, that 100 Black, queer, and trans GSC people will come for free, right? And so that just requires a different level of like outreach and engagement. So
How many people are on your team?
three people.
Are you one of them that does the grant writing or someone?
I don't do grant writing. My money has come from relationships, and with like Woolly Mammoth, they're like, we like what you're doing. We would like to do more. We would like to bring you on in this formal partnership. And here's what your budget is going to be every year. So I go to a lot of events, and so they were at Lee's show, Unforgivable Blackness, and struck up a conversation. And I was like, oh, I've reached out before. I just want to check in with you all. And so that's how we got into Woolly. But then in terms of, you have to pay it forward. So now that we have this relationship with Woolly, I said Unforgivable Blackness needs to be at Woolly Mammoth, and now Unforgivable Blackness is at Woolly Mammoth. And so it's like, how are you bringing all the people with you as you get access to these spaces?
So much, because that's one of the main purposes of this whole meeting, is to not only share our experiences and our expertise, but also support each other. So Monkey sent a bunch of people to come to a whole table of people that found out by him. That found out about the coverage, that very new show, Lindsay and Delilah and Kylie and Jim, Cassidy, I'm sorry. We're all in the audience for Hump Day Cabaret in the opening nights. And not only like gave their emotional support, but also financial support. And I know that's hard because we're all kind of on the same playing field for the most part in terms of money. And that's something that we, if nothing else comes from this meeting, is that moving forward, we can all be doing what you're doing, Lee, what you're doing, Lee, supporting each other, promoting each other. I would love to have flyers and stuff at my next show, you know, of other people's stuff, and a directory. There's a whole like burlesque directory. We should have a DC one. So DMV, sorry, DMV one. So that's just my little input. One more question. Okay.
Literally, the reason why I'm not right here, because you were, Maker's Lab was such a, you were like this invisible silent producer, Pretty Boy Drag. Maker's Lab was doing these video recap videos of all of their events, and I was like, I want to do that for my show. And the person doing that was Deanna Monet. Deanna Monet has done all of our shows since then, since the very beginning, and we would not have that relationship with Deanna without Lee. And then I was bugging you all the time with questions because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So thank you for being so patient with me.
But it was also because of Pretty Boy Drag, when I brought someone from the mayor's office of LGBTQ affairs, are like, I love what this is. I want to bring it to this office. And so together we co-produce District of Pride, right? And so it's just like, you have to be at other people's events. Like, you have to support people if you want all these things to continue to happen. And so, yeah.
I'll ask you the same question. What do you think the two most important things, or two things that have been integral in your success?
I think it's the way that we treat our guests. And so from the minute people walk in, it's like, thank you for being here. Like, it's got to be warm and inviting and welcoming. It's like, we appreciate you taking the time and spending your resources to be with us. And I think it's that we take care of all of our performers. And so from the process of like booking them to knowing that they're going to get paid on time, that when they're there, we have like snacks and water and just like all of the things that people need to take care of the audience too, right? And so I think that's why, and yeah, I think that's probably it.
That's only one thing. You have
Two things, and I think it's the buttons, and not because, but in the sense that like the buttons are actually a part of the community building, and people want to feel a part of something, and so I think people just need those friendly reminders of that's a place where I get to be myself, because sometimes that's the only place people really do get to be themselves, is in the spaces that the folks in this room are creating.
And I think a button maker is like I just bought one, it's like $120. It's worth the investment.
So thank you all so much for this panel. I feel like we Getting a lot of.
Yeah, I wanna ask the group, are we okay if we can switch to the second panel? I'll skip the survey results, I'll just do that last 5 minutes of the end. I just wanna hold the space for the people. How do we feel about that? I'll put a timer, 15 minutes. So if we could switch out Monkey, Siobhan, and Sharon.
No, I think it's not possible. Okay, Monkey, we want to hear from you.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a real person. I'm a real person, I promise.
Hi, it's me and Rachel. I'm trying to talk at the same time. Yeah, Monkey, you're definitely in the burlesque thing, but I want you to talk specifically about the festival. You're the authority in this room on that. Maria, we know you too, but you're not in the room right now, I'm so sorry.
And Tabitha.
And Tabitha too. And Siobhan already told you that she does a corporate private thing, so it's adjacent to what we're doing, still producing, but what would you call it?
Well, I guess, well, I have produced.
Yeah.
And I would consider the shows that I produce sort of like recitals. Because it's like, because I have a team and the members of my team are part of the productions, and because I am able to offer weekly financial opportunities to my team, then we can create much larger productions, like kind of like a recital. So it's like I can have like, 10 performers in a show, and well, I mean, I think like my minimum still are around like 200 per performer, but I don't fund my own productions. Like normally if I do a production, it's because I've partnered with a promoter in a nightclub, or I've partnered with a venue and split profits, or I've partnered with a production company and split profits. Like I have never like taken a financial risk with the production, because I believe that in order to do that, I have to be confident with my ability to sell an entire show, and that crowd be like my crowd that I've like sold to, and I am just unwilling to take sort of financial responsibility like that. But I've been able to get like $5,000 from like Motor, like to produce. We produced Halloween at Saks and worked with a nightclub promoter, and I was like, look, I need $5,000 to do this, and that's
So let's talk about that. That's one of the main things I wanted to touch on, so that you brought it up, the nightlife aspect. I know that burlesque by nature is in the nightlife, but what I've discovered by working with Siobhan is this other aspect that's more on the food and beverage side of things. Working with promoters, working in that realm. So I want to try to
club owners.
Yeah. To speak a little bit to that, because I think that's another avenue to produce as well. I found it much harder to break into. I found it in a boys club, and they don't treat girls nicely. But I'm also like ambassadress, like super gay. Siobhan is a little bit better at talking to men than I am. So let's
well, honestly, I feel like for me, it's been more my connections. So I have spent a lot of time, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. I spent a lot of time like making personal friendships with industry professionals. So then like if we want to do something at a club, it's because someone was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna tell my friend who owns this club that they should do this thing with you because what y'all do is really cool. That's pretty much how, or like a photographer or someone like sees us perform at an event, I guess because we have so much, we perform so often, like for clients, that someone will be like, oh, I want this at my space, or oh, I want, and then I am super like, okay, but I need this amount of money. Like, I don't do anything because it's fun. It's like, okay, if you want it, this is what it costs. So I know that's definitely a different side of production, but I do consider it production, but I also consider it like a recital because all of the participants involved, even if it's like, okay, well, we didn't make any money, so the promoter's not trying to pay us. It's like, I pay you almost every week, all year long. So like, you know, my perception of, you didn't make $500 at this event, but you made like $10,000 all year. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's like a true, I guess Parazonic really isn't a true, it's an entertainment company, but there's a group of people that do the group choreography and the group dances and all that kind of stuff. And those people kind of, you know.
Yeah, but I definitely always, whenever I do anything, $200 is my absolute minimum to ask anybody to do anything for me, because I am very much about money and I don't want people looking at me crazy. So yeah.
Do we have any questions about the nightlife aspect that we want to ask you on, about talking to promoters, about negotiating this kind of thing? I know Parazonic tends to have like a rotating cast. Do you find it hard to find
I think because I live in this industry, like it's just, I understand that it's a rotating door, but like I'm so involved in it that I'm just always seeking, because this is all I do. So I'm not like, oh, I don't have time to like find new people, because this is the only thing that I make time for. And then it's hard, yes, because then you have to, well, it was working with me now, she's like the new talent manager for Parazonic. So because I feel that with the turnover, like the expectations of what it takes to be a performer is really low. Like people are just like, oh, I started dancing yesterday, now I want to be, so, you know, it's like, I feel very invested in like finding talent, and then also like, yeah, like educating them on like how to be talented. So DMing people on Instagram, or like, and people are kind of always submitting anyway. Like I don't really have to find, or like there's someone on the team is like, oh, my friend saw me at this gig and they want to be at the gig. And so it's not really me like really seeking, like we're having auditions right now, like submission, but we haven't had auditions in 2 years. So it's, yeah.
You founded Parazonic in what year?
2016.
And what's been the progression? How have you been able to scale and go from, I think in the beginning, the rates were a little bit lower than the figures?
Yeah, I think like the rates probably started around 100, because I became a full-time performer very quickly after learning how to hula hoop. I was a specialty performer, so it's a little different than burlesque. Like when I met Ava and she told me what burlesque performers I was like, no, thank you. No. I was like, do you want to learn fire? Because we get paid over here. So I've kind of like had that view of like the specialty performer aspect of it. Like my friends are like aerialists, and like they're like, oh, give me $2,000 or I'm not showing up. So I kind of took what I did and what I was making and how I was moving and how I became like a full-time artist, and like modeled that to like, what would I have loved when I was starting? And then I created that. So, and then that was able, the more I got confident selling, the more I got confident asking people, telling people, oh, you want this, is what it costs, the more I was able to raise rates. But then it hits a ceiling, because then, you know, if you're not elevated to like, you're a full-time professional training performer, you you can't get paid as a, full-time professional training performer, because if I'm charging that to the client, but then you're not showing up as their expectation, like you were saying with ticket sales, like what is the expectation of someone paying $40 and what kind of show do they get? That, yeah, it's like a give and take. It's like the producer's job, but then also the performer's job to like become a performer that is definitely worth an amount of money.
I would like to, just because thank you, I have a inside knowledge of like how this process is. I would like to add that I think her model gives her a little bit less autonomy in terms of hiring, because clients are choosing who they would like to be on their private events rather than, I don't know how to explain it,
And
but
bankrolling the productions.
right.
I'm not.
Right. So it's kind of, if you have especially if there's an Instagram, a lot of the clients will go to the Instagram and scroll through and be like, oh, I want her. And I have this person. It'll be me, but no, I want her. It'll be some bitch in Florida. Tall and skinny. But so I just wanted to throw that in there, that expectations are set differently according to what you're doing.
And when you're using other people's money.
Yeah.
And the interview cut off, but one thing that Ainsley wanted to pass along was the one specific type of performer they have most difficulty with professionalism is the less, and the quality is the lowest in that category. So part of the school, part of the collective is that no matter what level we're producing, I'm new and I'm traveling the country and I'm seeing absolutely stellar burlesque. They have different planets. And it's not because they have more money, it's not because they're skinnier or whiter. So they work together, they have more shows through the week, they have more time to experiment and see different things, and we just so happy to build a community infrastructure of shows so that we've got 20 productions happening a week, so that there's a diversity of talent, and that people at the top are making $500 to $1,000 a show, and then it'll trickle down to the
That's right. Does anybody here was that a successful model? This predates me, so.
That's who I worked with my shows. Oh, sorry.
It was a destination for performers from all over the world to come do burlesque.
And I go places and they still ask me. Yeah, they're asking about it in New York, so.
It was magical, and it was, yeah, it was like it was like in the 1100 block, just like right out there. And it was, I don't know like specifically the ownership and those kind of details, but it was very much a community space. You could go any night of the week and there was something happening.
Like housing.
Yeah, and people knew about it all over. And I would love for us to have something like that again. I would personally, like, in some small, I would find a way to invest in something like that.
No, that's part of why it closed. I think there was a confluence of, this is all secondhand. I was not involved at this point, but my understanding is that there was a lot of management conflicts at the same time that the lease was up. So kaboom.
And here we are.
And we've been fighting ever since to find like a home for burlesque in DC.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. Is there anything else you want to add? I'll ask you the same question. What do you think the two main things have been integral in your success as event curator or producer?
Well, one, I guess, because my model has just followed the standard that I had for myself. I guess being a performer first and then becoming a producer kind of made me look at everything as like, well, what would I have wanted, or what did I expect, or what was I excited for, or like, so I was able to like provide that on the other side, and then also just being okay with not doing stuff if it didn't pay, or making a big enough reason outside of this production for it to be worth doing it if it's not paying. So, yeah.
The Maki roll official. your local production. I'm really interested, I'm sure we're all interested to hear about your festival producing experience.
Yes. Where should I start?
How did it start?
It started in the pandemic. I didn't want a festival at all. I actually was about to quit burlesque in the pandemic because I was like, I hate it. Yes, it was that bad. But I also hated my job too. And my husband was like, why don't you try to like bet on yourself for once? And right as I was about to make that decision of like, should I quit my job? Lefty Lucy was like, do you want the Nerd Less Festival? And I was like, yeah, I really want that actually. And actually I love burlesque, I have a purpose now. So also in that acquisition, I went to Minneapolis and I ingratiated myself specifically on Sweet Pea's request, who I was just like, Sweet Pea knows my name, that's so weird. So I went and I spent a week just learning under Sweet Pea and just seeing how the Minneapolis community ran things, and they were just so tight. And like, again, they had a school, like a central school where everyone did things. And I was just like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if like we could do that here? Wouldn't it be so nice? But let me fix this fucking festival, because it had no money. They gave me a festival with no money. So also the festival was in New York. And I did not feel I had first I was going to do it in New York, but I was like, it would not be true to me if I did a show, if I did a festival in New York, let's try to move it to DC. So in that, from 2021 is when I formed Citrus Mint LLC, and that's basically where I do everything under DC Burlesque, our convention activations, festival things. And in that, I was assessing the risk of creating a festival with no experience in creating a festival. So we used our budgets from previous shows to kind of just get a scale of what we would need for like a 3-day weekender. And we came to the conclusion that we didn't have any fucking money to support it. So we, again, through something that I did in the pandemic, I did a virtual wrestling RPG with Flying V Theater. And through that, I gained the connection of Flying V, and they liked what we were pitching with doing sort of like a mini weekender, which we called the Nerdvana experience. And basically what that was going to do was reestablish me and the DC burlesque community, reestablish my connections that I had within the various communities, because I mean, everything shut down. And then as Ricky was saying, there were no venues. The attendance was lower than ever before. So our thing was, let's use this theater company's money to kind of test run how this would be. And we learned a lot. Like, we never want to work with collaborating with the theater again, or at the very least, if we collaborate with the theater, we would do things a lot differently, because there's a lot that I did not know. I'm not a theater person, so there's a lot that I did not know going into it that impacted the way that we moved as a burlesque festival. There was a lot of just small things with like how we could present the show, how we could sell the show, basically making this theater ready, so that the people who invested in the show can feel like they got a return on their investment. And they loved it, but again, we ran up against problems like it is a theater, so they are promoting other things on top of our festival, and the way that they would market is they would do one show at a time. And we were like, that is not how burlesque works. We need to get on this and like promote months and months in advance. And we would like run into all these problems where eventually we would have to like take matters into our own hands, reach into our community, which we had spent 2 years kind of building. as I said, reestablishing ourselves, going into various scenes, burlesque, cosplay. We would set up, I would use my, I'm a convention guest, so I'd use my convention booths to like set up for the Nerdless Festival and be like, hey, do you like cosplay and titties? Because that's what I'm selling to you. So like really using the resources that I already had to try to put money into this thing that I want to build bigger. And we did 2 Nerdvana experiences. And one of the things that was very invaluable to us was our volunteers, and just having people who really believed in what we were doing and really wanted to see what we were doing succeed. And then just like really making it a good experience, a memorable experience, because we were using other people's money. So figuring out like different aspects like hospitality and travel and things of that nature. And it was definitely a challenge for sure. And where we're at now is we are in the process of hunting for a venue to bring the festival back proper. We did 2 Nerdvana experiences. I think they were both successful in that they put us back on the map, but there's also, what we do is very niche. So, and there's not been a lot of community love as a whole for Nerdless. So, and one of those things I think is because the history of Nerdless is not documented, something I want to get with you on, by the way. The history of Nerdless is not documented, and if I could be going to that quality of burlesque, the quality of Nerdless is not to the level collectively that I would like it to be. So with that comes the education, which is what we wanted to include in the Nerdvana experience. We brought out Lulula Duchess Larir. Just to look, we be out here doing things. You just gotta follow the socials.
The queen of burlesque was
What's here? What's here?
Business class with no notes, either.
Yes, it was just 5. So just like really, for me, my charge is just investing the infrastructure and the knowledge in Nerdless so people can invest in Nerdless, because I think a lot of people, they do see it as kind of like the outlier of burlesque, but there's some really fucking good Nerdless. And in fact, one of my favorite acts is still your katana. It's still one of. Please, we're waiting for you.
We have to, for the interest of time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that you probably already noticed the pattern as well, but the same thing that keeps coming up is creating this community, is the expectation that people have for these tickets that they're buying, like what they're gonna see, which trickles into the quality of performances that we see on stage, and professionalism and marketing. These are like every single person that's been on the panel thus far. I just wanted to like bring that to the forefront of our minds.
Or the second pick of venue date. So I would always get the scratch, but I would get and in that is always been that mother community. People saw me at a convention, and those people who have maybe seen the other wrestling shows, something like that. Like,
bringing those communities together to like a spirit factory. That has definitely helped. And number two, I would say the same. I would not. Myself to like being
I guess I didn't type quickly enough. Seems like we completely lost them.
Yep, I was typing my final message too. I was like, the audio is breaking. This is the perfect time to say bye-bye. I'll put it in hell so it's part of the record.
Yeah.
Is it over now or did it just cut out?
I think it just cut out. I might stick on for a second and see if somebody tries to reconnect.
Yeah.
Um, it seems like it's still recording too. For whoever Zoom this is, I would definitely be interested in being part of the whatever meetings come after this.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, I'm gonna sign off.
All right. I'm putting my email in as well. Good idea, Tabitha.
Yes. All right, bye, friends.
Bye.
So my first question was,
I
produced their black cat upstairs and downstairs.
Creation with that show was good, right? Yeah, it was very possible.
Yeah, some of you who were there probably remember, like, I had worked with management grudgingly to get like a special champagne service set up. It's like people are gonna way overpay. Yeah. I had the vision, I'm like, yes, we're basically doing a very specialized bottle service, and it's only the champagne, and we're gonna serve it with like little candied violets, and there will be a to-do in the serving, like you do with bottle service, and we get the margin on the service, not the house. I paid for the friggin', and they insisted, no real champagne, only this California crap. It was part of the branding, it was part of the image of this show. It's like, no, you're gonna get real champagne. They wouldn't order it for me, and I had to pay for the case of the champagne myself.
But they put the margins on it, like the sales.
Well, they decided they weren't actually going to. Teach the staff about it, and I had to last minute, but nobody sold it. I think the only one that was sold was Ben demonstrating, hey, look, you can get fancy champagne service, isn't this fun? And I think we did one more. So I was stuck with a bottle of really crappy wine, and like that idea just shot to hell. Is that so one part of the management totally got the vision, totally supported. The one that was in charge of execution didn't care for it.
You've had that experience.
Also care for the last.
A lot of units were at Mount Green, the first one in the league. And similar, how big vision, you know, large thinker, you know, and the owner wasn't there. Okay, I show up there, there's people still in the room, there's a whole brunch still going on, nobody just get out of the room. They have their servers dressed in booty shorts and tank tops. We're using skirts and top hats and like playing classical music, and they're working with the girls. Like, I think that's another thing that I know.
That's why y'all had your reaction when I said that.
Sure. No, I don't know. I think that's another common thread that we found. Almost everybody that's done the things that in the vision and are really a fan of what they're doing. It's not a waste of time, I think, because they're not going to put the energy to make it really life.
And they may even get in the way of it, which was heartbreaking.
Thank you so much. So,
Yes.
What are the two things you feel will make you successful?
It's of course the community, because we developed this weird cult following, and I still haven't quite figured out that. And then the other half is the performers. Y'all are gonna hate me about this, but I don't do a general casting call for pies. I hand select, because this show on a Wednesday has to be curated so tightly that people know that whoever's performing, whether it's nerd, less classic, whatever, they know that the right energy is going to be in that room. And that's what I have to curate for. And like, please send acts and ideas my way, but what I'm really putting together is the energy in the room. And so that's my performers. That's
Thank you.
that's
And honestly, you're fucking funny. You know, at this point, we're talking about the fact that like you don't spend your money on nobody that, you know, honestly.
When my anxiety works.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for, this is part of me, that wants to push you to talk for a long time, so I'm so grateful, for the attention and all of the information you shared, it's really helpful. Like the Aquarius said, this is not the last one, but I will not be leading the next